Imagine this. You're finally home, the kids are in bed, and you're just craving some quiet time.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of peace, there's that familiar tension in the air.
Yeah.
That argument you had earlier wasn't really about your child's messy room, was it? It was about your way of handling it versus your partner's way.
Right. It becomes about the approach.
Exactly.
Mm.
And you're tired, you're frustrated, and you're just left wondering, why is co-parenting so incredibly hard sometimes? And why do we keep clashing over the very same things again and again?
Well, it's a scenario playing out in, gosh, so many homes. And it's precisely the core of what we're digging into today.
Okay.
We're really going to unpack how your own childhood, your upbringing, profoundly shapes the way you parent as an adult.
And how that leads to conflict with your partner.
Exactly. Often deep-seated conflict. So our mission here is to uncover why parents can struggle so much to truly co-parent, to be a team, and maybe more importantly, how you can start building a more unified front, which benefits everyone, really.
And for this deep dive, we're drawing our insights from a really powerful and, I think, quite comprehensive book. It's called Parenting as Partners: How to Launch Your Kids Without Ejecting Your Spouse.
It's a great title.
Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it offers such a unique and, frankly, essential look at this whole family dynamic. Because here's the core idea, the central truth it highlights. Many problems that parents think are about their children.
Mm-hmm. The kid problem.
Yeah,
Right.
they actually stem from these unspoken disagreements, these wildly different beliefs between the parents.
The kids are almost like little spotlights, aren't they? Shining a light on the friction points between the adults.
That's a great way to put it.
Absolutely. And the book kicks off with this fascinating and I think very relatable story about a couple, Drew and Gwen.
Okay.
So Drew, he grew up in a home where, well, basically his every need was met. His mom handled everything, breakfast, lunch, laundry, you name it. So he could just, be a kid.
Sounds nice.
Yeah. And his dad was kind of the king of the castle in charge of discipline, but also the fun stuff. So naturally, Drew grew up sort of expecting, maybe unconsciously, a partner who'd fill that attentive, accommodating role his mom played.
Okay, I can see where this is going. What about Gwen?
Gwen's world was completely different. She grew up with a single parent, and contributing wasn't just encouraged, it was, well, necessary. She was making her own breakfast by age 5.
Wow.
Fully involved in keeping the household running by 10. So she developed these really strong ideas about what it meant to be a contributing, valued member of the family unit.
And, initially you can see how those differences might even seem attractive. Like, oh, they'll balance each other out.
That's exactly what they thought. They thought they'd complement each other perfectly. Gwen saw Drew as this stable father figure she maybe missed out on. Drew expected Gwen to be a bit like his mom, taking care of things.
But life happens. Kids arrive.
Exactly. Years later, 2 kids, way more responsibilities, and those different childhoods. They started clashing directly in their parenting styles. Drew felt Gwen was being too hard on the kids.
And she probably thought he was.
She accused him of babying them, turning them into, quote, spoiled brats. She saw him as too wishy-washy on discipline. So they weren't a team. They were like 2 separate forces pulling the family in totally opposite directions.
That story just resonates so much. I mean, you hear versions of that all the time. Parenting coaches, therapists, they're seeing this huge increase in parents coming in for help with what they call kid problems. Only to pretty quickly figure out that the real issue, the core challenge, is the parents' struggle to actually co-parent effectively. What kind of kid problems are we talking about that often mask this deeper issue?
Oh, it's the common stuff. Defiant behavior, kids not listening, constant sibling fights, struggles with homework.
Right.
Parents come in saying, my kid just won't listen, or they fight all the time. But when you start digging, when you peel back those layers,
It's often the inconsistency between the parents.
precisely. The child is often just reacting understandably to getting mixed messages. One parent says this, the other says that. It's confusing. And this leads us to something really interesting from Dr. Frank Walken. He was a renowned Adlerian psychologist.
Okay, Adlerian. So focusing on how our experiences shape our sense of self and how we interact.
Exactly. He called it the most memorable observation. And he suggested that somewhere around those tricky preteen years, maybe 11, 12, 13, we start making these critical, often unconscious decisions
Decisions about.
how we want to parent someday, or just as powerfully, how we absolutely don't want to parent based on watching our own families.
Right, this recreate or reject idea. It's powerful. Let's break that down. The book uses Susan as an example for recreate.
Yes, Susan's dad worked nights, but he always made her breakfast. And for her, that morning ritual became the symbol of love, of deep connection.
A really positive memory.
Definitely. So as a parent herself, she tries to recreate that feeling. She makes these lovely hot breakfasts. But what happens if her kids aren't interested? Or worse, her partner criticizes her for fussing.
Uh-oh. That's going to trigger something big.
Exactly. It activates this really strong reaction because it's not just about the pancakes, right? It feels like her attempt to recreate that love and connection is being rejected.
And then her partner, Kevin, provides the reject side of the coin.
Perfect example. His childhood was the opposite. His mom fussed over him at breakfast, and he hated it. Made him feel like a baby, especially if friends were over. It was deeply embarrassing for him.
So when he sees Susan doing the same thing,
his own childhood memory flares up, that feeling of embarrassment. And his knee-jerk reaction is maybe to make a sarcastic comment, to push back against the fussing.
wow. So those intense feelings we get sometimes aren't random flare-ups. They're like signals, clues to dig deeper into our own past.
That's it, exactly. Until Kevin and Susan could actually identify the meaning each of them had attached to breakfast, this seemingly small daily event had the power to really damage their parenting partnership.
But once they understood each other's childhood goggles, as the book calls them, that unique lens shaped by our early life,
They could see it differently. They could turn it from a point of conflict into a chance to connect, maybe find a new routine that worked for everyone.
okay, but how do parents even start that process? When you're caught up in the daily grind, the arguments, how do you untangle those meanings?
It really has to start with curiosity, doesn't it? Instead of jumping to criticism like, you're always too hard on them, maybe try asking, help me understand why this particular thing feels so important to you.
Shifting from accusation to inquiry.
Yes. And that understanding is even more critical when you look at the bigger picture, how parenting itself has changed over the decades.
Right, the historical context.
Think about it. Before, say, the 1950s, mom was generally seen as the primary parenting expert, right? Dad often had a more defined, maybe secondary role.
The classic, wait till your father gets home.
Exactly. Life was, in some ways, more predictable in terms of who did what.
Then came the 80s and 90s, the Mr. Mom era, as the book calls it.
Fathers were suddenly officially invited to be more active, more involved, and there was this expectation they'd jump in enthusiastically.
And you even see that shift reflected in broader culture, like the New York Times changing its parenting blog name from Motherload to, well, family.
Acknowledging that modern families look different, 2 moms, 2 dads, all sorts of structures.
Reflecting reality.
But here's the fascinating, often overlooked part. The paradox baked into that invitation for dads.
What do you mean?
Well, the intention was good, obviously, more involvement, but it often created this vacuum of unspoken expectations. For some moms, it truly meant, let's share this responsibility, share the decisions.
A real partnership.
But for others, it might have meant something different. Maybe just, I need an extra pair of eyes and hands here. Or maybe even a reluctant agreement because they felt societal pressure or criticism if they didn't involve dad more.
Ah, so the invitation wasn't always clear on the terms?
Not at all. And while some families navigated this beautifully, of course,
Sure, there were successes.
the book highlights a really common scenario that arose from this cultural shift. You had dads interpreting the invitation as, okay, great, we're equal partners now. They genuinely believed their opinions, their ideas on, say, how to soothe the baby or what snacks to pack.
Would be valued.
Right. They expected serious consideration. So imagine their surprise, their frustration when those suggestions were maybe ignored or just outright vetoed.
Oof, that'd be tough.
Yeah. So it's really no surprise that many dads, perhaps feeling unheard or undermined, ended up kind of swallowing their ideas, stepping back, maybe reverting to the sidelines by the time the kids got a bit older.
That lack of clear expectations just created fertile ground for misunderstanding and disappointment.
Absolutely. And we're arguably still dealing with the echoes of that today.
Which is a critical point.
Yeah.
And that underlying tension, that potential conflict, it then ripples out into almost every part of family life. Daily routines, bigger lifestyle choices.
It all comes back to those unique childhood goggles we mentioned. Everyone is looking at parenting situations through their own personal lens shaped by their past, and it makes it incredibly difficult to even see, let alone agree with, a perspective that clashes hard with your own deeply held beliefs.
So these seemingly small daily disagreements about chores or meals or bedtime, They aren't really about the thing itself.
Rarely. They're usually a clash of these deeply ingrained values, these emotional histories, all tied back to our own childhoods.
Let's look at some specifics where this plays out. And money's always a big one, right?
Oh, huge. You see totally different philosophies. One parent might believe kids learn best through trial and error with an allowance, making mistakes.
Okay, learning by doing.
While the other might feel strongly that money should be tied directly to good grades or chores performed. Both parents probably want their kids to learn the value of money.
But they fight about the how.
Exactly. They end up battling each other instead of thinking, okay, what approach will actually teach our kids what we both want them to learn, which often is more about consistency than the specific method.
Or meal times, you mentioned that earlier. I know for me, growing up, dinners could be pretty chaotic, lots of tension sometimes. So now, I really crave calm, quiet meals.
Makes sense.
But I have a friend whose childhood memories are all happy family gatherings, like something out of a magazine. She tries so hard to recreate that perfect Norman Rockwell dinner.
And probably feels guilty or gets stressed when reality, busy schedules, tired kids doesn't match the ideal.
Totally. It's not just about getting food on the table, is it? It's loaded with emotion.
Absolutely not. Your childhood experience of mealtime directly shapes your adult expectations, how you feel at your own dinner table. The meaning you attach to that daily ritual is huge.
And then technology.
Oh, boy.
The Wild West of modern parenting. The views here are all over the map. Some see it mainly as a learning tool, a resource.
Others, maybe a special treat, something earned.
Right. Or parents trying hard to maintain a healthy balance. Then you've got those who lean towards a total ban, or nearly total, and others who almost use it as a social sidekick to connect with their kids over games or shows.
And those beliefs, often really strongly held, just lead to these ongoing battles between partners. I remember one parent in the book saying they were constantly emailing each other articles.
Trying to prove their point. See? My way is right.
Exactly. So, okay, those are some of the daily sticking points. But these childhood goggles also shape the bigger picture stuff, right? Lifestyle, emotional approaches.
Definitely. Take discipline. If your own upbringing involved a lot of, say, punishment and shame,
You might react strongly against that. You might swing the pendulum way over. Maybe become really wishy-washy, constantly negotiating, afraid to set firm limits, which of course can drive a partner crazy if they believe clear, consistent consequences are crucial.
or the reverse, maybe your parents were pretty moderate, democratic leaders fostering responsibility.
Right. And you try to emulate that, but maybe your partner, perhaps because of their past, is terrified of letting kids experience natural consequences. They want to swoop in and fix everything. Again, it's rarely about the specific rule itself.
It's about the feeling underneath, the fear, the need for control, the desire for connection.
Precisely. And emotional health, that's another huge one. Many parents, maybe because they weren't allowed to show negative feelings, get really uncomfortable when their own kids are sad or angry. They want everyone to be happy all the time.
Which isn't realistic, is it?
Not at all. And that clashes directly with a partner who believes it's vital to allow kids to feel their feelings, to express them naturally, and to support them through the difficult emotions, not shut them down. Your own history with expressing or suppressing emotions powerfully dictates how you react to your child's tears or tantrums.
You're almost reliving your own emotional childhood through your kids.
In a way, yes. And then there's independence, finding that balance between encouraging kids to be capable and self-reliant versus, over-parenting, being that helicopter parent.
It's tough.
Super tough. And your own childhood, were you pushed to be independent early? Or maybe made to feel incapable, like a nincompoop, as one person described?
Yeah.
That experience will absolutely shape your approach. And odds are your partner had a different experience and holds a different belief about what's best.
Okay, so we've painted a picture of how these clashes happen, where they come from. What does this mean for actually building that strong, unified parenting partnership? Where do couples even start?
Well, the first, and maybe biggest, mental shift is realizing the goal isn't to change your partner. It's not about convincing them that my way is the right way.
That's huge, because that's often the default mode, right? Trying to win the argument.
Exactly. The real goal is understanding and collaboration. So what's the first tangible step? The book recommends something really foundational. Starting every difficult conversation with an appreciation.
And appreciation, how does that work?
It sounds simple, but it's incredibly effective at setting a different tone. You might say something like, look, I really appreciate that you're willing to even talk about this stuff. I know it's hard, but I appreciate that we're trying to figure this out together for us and for the kids.
Okay, so it kind of disarms the defensiveness right off the bat.
Precisely. It creates a little bit of goodwill, a foundation to build on, instead of starting from opposing corners.
That makes a lot of sense. And then building on that, the book talks about using appreciative inquiry. What's that about?
It's about shifting from making statements, which often trigger that defensiveness, get you stuck on that hamster wheel of yeah buts.
Oh, I know that wheel.
We all do. Instead, you ask questions. Open-ended questions focused on positive outcomes, like, okay, forgetting our disagreement for a second, what's the best possible outcome we both want for our kids in this situation?
So it focuses on the shared goal.
Yes. It shifts the energy away from a battle and towards collaboration, towards possibilities. What could we create together?
And the book also talks about handling those strong emotions that inevitably come up, right? Because this isn't easy work.
No, definitely not. Those deep-seated feelings will surface. The advice is crucial. When you feel that surge of anger or hurt or defensiveness, stop, pause, take responsibility for your feeling. It's yours, triggered by the situation, but originating from your history.
Don't immediately blame the other person for making you feel that way.
Exactly. Take a breath. Allow the feeling to just be there for a moment, maybe even pass, without immediately anchoring it by launching into a defense or attack. This is tough, requires practice, but it's where real transformation can happen. It creates space for new clarity.
Okay, this leads us to a really practical framework the book offers. The intersect, parallel, and diverge model. IPD. Can you break that down?
Sure. It's a way to map out where your parenting ideas actually stand in relation to your partners. So intersect, is where your ideas genuinely align. You both truly want the same thing.
Like the common ground.
Exactly. The example given is Eva and Avery. They realized they both desperately wanted their kids to have strong sibling bonds. That was their intersect point. The problem was their methods were causing fights. They were trying to force it, leading to yelling.
But finding that shared goal, wanting strong bonds, gave them a starting point.
Precisely. That's your sweet spot. Identify the intersect points first when building any kind of parenting plan.
Okay, so I is intersect. What's P?
P is for parallel. This is trickier. It's where your ideas seem similar on the surface, but when you dig down, they're actually fundamentally different.
We think we agree, but we don't really zone.
You got it. The book uses Charles and Peter. They both said they valued independence for their kids. Sounds like agreement, right?
Yep.
But for Charles, independence meant letting kids explore freely, maybe without much supervision. For Peter, it meant kids learning self-sufficiency through chores, cleaning up after themselves. See the difference?
Big difference in practice. That parallel thinking causes a lot of friction because you're operating on different definitions.
Huge confusion and friction. Or Emily and Simone with routines. Both agreed routines were vital, but Emily's idea was rigid, time schedules for everything. Simone's focus was this incredibly detailed, almost laughable hair-washing routine. They both valued structure, but in such different ways that they realized they were both being too rigid, just differently. It shows how easily we can talk past each other.
Okay, intersect, parallel, and D must be diverged.
Right. Diverge is where your ideas are clearly opposing. No ambiguity here. And the book has some powerful examples. Jessica's dad ignored her mom's parenting efforts, so Jessica vowed her house would have consistency.
Okay.
Her partner, Erin, had a mom who was a dictator. So Erin loved her dad's spontaneous challenges and interruptions. She vowed her parenting would have spontaneity.
Oof. Consistency versus spontaneity. That's a direct clash.
A constant battle bubbling under the surface. Or Kevin, whose dad disappeared during emotional upsets, so Kevin wanted to always be available for his kids' feelings. His partner, Emily, whose mom was a busybody, felt strongly about giving kids space to process emotions. Interfering versus giving space.
Wow. How do you even begin to bridge gaps that way? Those seem fundamental.
It starts with acknowledging the validity of the experience behind the belief, even if you totally disagree with the conclusion your partner drew from it.
So validating the feeling or the history, not necessarily the parenting tactic itself.
Exactly. Take Janie and Jason. Janie grew up in a very private, insular family. For her, family was enough. for deep connection and friendship. She wanted to recreate that intense family bond.
Yeah.
Jason grew up in a super social household. Friends were always over. He believed friendships were as important as family and wanted their home to be the neighborhood hub.
Polar opposites.
Totally. And they spent years trying to convince each other their way was right, till they finally realized, wait, our kids have their own needs, their own personalities and rhythms. It wasn't about whose childhood was better or whose way was right.
It was about letting go of being right and figuring out what works for this family right now.
That's the shift, moving towards what works for us.
So, okay, bringing this all together for you, the listener, building this kind of partnership clearly takes commitment. These strategies, while powerful, sound like real work. How much time are we talking? Is it overwhelming?
It doesn't have to be about finding hours you don't have. The key is consistency. Committing a specific, manageable amount of time, maybe even just 15-20 minutes a week, dedicated to this work. Not multitasking, just focusing.
And celebrating the small steps.
Absolutely. Celebrate the small wins. When you do manage to have a conversation with appreciation, acknowledge it. Go slowly. This isn't a race. And crucially, take responsibility for your own part in conflicts. It's rarely 100% the other person's fault.
Owning your contribution.
Yes, and cultivating gratitude for your partner, for the effort you're both making. It genuinely makes you slower to anger, quicker to forgive, and ultimately remember why you're doing this.
Yeah.
By intentionally working together, by modeling this respectful collaboration.
You're creating something powerful for your kids.
You're creating a living legacy. You're showing them what healthy, respectful, loving partnerships look like. And that increases the odds dramatically that they'll seek out and build similar healthy relationships in their own futures.
So we'll leave you with this thought to mull over. How might understanding your own unique childhood goggles, really getting curious about them, transform not just your parenting partnership, but maybe all your relationships, starting today?